writers are often caught between, especially when you write genre fiction the way I do, and I love genre fiction, I love what it means. You're often caught making choices between the themes that really will please you as a writer and what you know will please the reader. And it's a tightrope. You want to be sure to stay on that rope. You don't want to fall off. You hope you can take readers a little far off the path that you've set. And KG McGregor is here tonight. She can speak to that as well, because you're always walking that line. And I like pushing it as far as I can go and then bringing it back to a happy ending. Because I think the world needs more happy endings. And if everybody had a happy ending, we'd be a whole lot better off. So I'm going to read this is actually a short little bit from another book, and this one just came out, and I think there might be copies here that you can buy tonight, called Christabel. This is a reissued, it's over there. I originally wrote this under another pen name, Laura Adams, and it was Laura's second book, and most people knew, at that time, the market was this is back in Naiad Press days. The market was such that new writers really struggled to get a foothold, and that first book would be a difficult one to kind of get out there in the second book. And by the third or the fourth book, you would start to really see a following, and you'd start to see that readers would follow you. And now, I don't know what it is. It's new writers get an instant try. Everybody wants to read the new writer, and their challenge is to keep their audience into that fourth and fifth book, and to keep writing better books so that they can continue to attract readers. But this was Laura's second book, and I can guess that nearly nobody read it. So as a reprint, I added about 25% to the text. I was going for a certain length because it was a Gothic romance. I kept it short, didn't want it to be too heavy. And hoping to catch the reader's eye with that. So I went back and I added some scenes that I thought about at the time and I hadn't written. And so it's about 25% longer. And most of that is in the modern day romance. So you've got a romance in the past and a modern day romance and a Gothic story in between, and a bad guy and a villain and evil spirits and things like that. So this is present day. But it's based on a poem, a long and unfinished poem by Samuel Coleridge called Christabel. And I read about that in a wonderful book, which they will have a copy of, I'm sure, called Sex Variant Women in Literature, written by Jeanette Foster. That was produced in, I want to say, in the 50s, and reprinted again by Naiad in the 70s when Barbara Greer got Jeanette's permission to do that. But it's a wonderful book where what Dr. Foster did was she went through classic literature and all the way through her current day at the time, and found the lesbian and what she titled sex variant behavior from women characters in these ancient texts. And so she translated many of them, and she talked about the poem Christabel, where you have the young ingenue, the innocent virgin, Christabel. She goes for a walk in the woods. She meets a witch. The witch wears green. Everything in Coleridge it was a naturalist poem, so the forest is portrayed as being living and alive, and it's very green and it's very natural. And the witch's name is Geraldine, and she puts Christabel under a spell. And Christabel yearns to be with Geraldine all the time. And in Coleridge's poem, in comes Sir Leoline on his white charger to rescue the young virgin from the evil witch. And I don't particularly like that story. I think if you're out walking in the forest, you run into a witch, she's probably a good witch. So I told a different story, in that the young ingenue in colonial New York is out walking in the forest, and she does meet a good witch. And but in the past, things go awry, and now it's the modern day, and the two women have come together again, and they're trying to finally rid them of this evil that keeps them apart. So the modern day Geraldine, however, has not particularly liked the idea that she has some sort of heritage that's creeping up on her and she has to live with. Because even though magical gifts sound great, if it happens to you, maybe that's not such a great thing. So she's fighting it all she can. So I'm going to read just a little bit of her dilemma. And as bad as any stalker, the woman doesn't want what you offer, and her eyes have never told you differently. They have the internet in England and plenty of ways to get an anonymous account. Krista could have made contact with you if that was what she had wanted, and she didn't. So she didn't want it. End of story. The driver got bogged down in a traffic snarl, and by the time they reached Dina's building, she was feeling completely out of control. That is, until she paid off the meter and found herself saying, "Don't pick up a fare at Mountain Spring." The look she got left her in no doubt that the poor man thought she was possessed. The cab disappeared into the darkness in record time. So that's just a little look at Dina. And Krista is a supermodel in this life, and trying to be immortal because all the women in her family have short, very unhappy lives. She's trying to get immortality by being on the cover of as many magazines as she can before her life inevitably falls apart. So, and the designer, she's a supermodel, and there's a designer, and he's the bad guy, which you find out right away in the story. I'm not spoiling anything. He's a bad guy because Dina takes one look and goes, "Oh, bad man." She's just like, when she sees him, and so it's just like the setup is not particularly subtle, but they find a way out of it.